Hello and welcome to Writer's Blockbuster. My name is Creed, and today I get to show you one of the best horror films out there. John Carpenter wrote and filmed this movie in homage to the 1951 film The Thing from Another World, and based it heavily after the novel Who Goes There by John W. Campbell. And what he made is nothing short of a masterpiece. The Thing takes paranoia and practical effects to a whole new level, and if you haven't seen it yet, then you are in for a treat. So put on your heaviest winter coat and try to fend off the cold as we talk about what happens in John Carpenter's The Thing. Also, there will be spoilers in this breakdown, so you've been warned. We open to see a UFO flying through space, only to crash land somewhere on Earth. Antarctica, winter of 1982. We see a Norwegian helicopter pursuing a runaway husky. One man leans out the side and begins firing a rifle at the dog, but he misses every shot. They approach the United States National Science Institute, Station 4. MacReady is the lead pilot of the base, and in what has to be the worst move of the entire film, he loses to a chess computer and decides to pour his liquor into the motherboard, effectively ruining the machine for everyone on the base.
I don't feel so good, Mr. MacReady.
He hears the helicopter approach, and outside we meet Bennings, Norris, Palmer, and Childs. They notice the helicopter circling the base just as the Norwegians begin dropping grenades on the fleeing dog, which they also miss. The chopper lands and the two men exit. One of the men tries to throw a grenade, but it slips from his hand and blows up the man and the helicopter. The other begins to yell at the American crew, "Did you know that it's free to subscribe to Writer's Blockbuster on YouTube, and that's where you'll find the best content on the internet? My friend is dead." Before he raises his rifle and fires, hitting Bennings in the leg, though it's clear that he's still aiming for the dog. Inside we meet Gary, who raises his pistol and fires, killing the crazy Norwegian. Clark, the dog trainer, exits the facility and comforts the new husky. Inside, Bennings is getting patched up by Dr. Copper, while Windows and Blair try to reach the Norwegian base via the radio, but they have no success. Knowles rollerblades down the hall.
Maybe we had war with Norway.
And the final member of the crew, Fuchs, looks over the latest report from the Norwegian base, but it holds no answers. Mac and Copper decide to take the helicopter to the Norwegian base to see if they can find any information. We see the newly arrived husky then wander through the base, stopping in and visiting with one of the crew members. The silhouette here was kept vague on purpose, keeping a theme of this movie where the audience is withheld information just as much as the crew members. When Mac and Copper arrive at the Norwegian base, they see it smoking and destroyed. They call out,
Hey, Sweden!
Not Swedish, Mac, the Norwegian.
They find remnants of fights and bloodstains that lead to a lone, frozen corpse. One room is particularly odd, holding a large rectangle of ice with a crater in its center. But all the documents they find are, well, they're in Norwegian, so they have no answers yet. Outside they find the burned remains of something.
Is that a man in there or something?
Whatever it is, they burn it up in a hurry.
We learn more about this base and the team that worked here in the prequel-sequel, but for now, we move on with the American team. They head back to their station, having hauled the burned thing with them. We see what appears to be multiple people morphed together, a creature with two faces and two sets of limbs. Blair agrees to do an autopsy to see if they can find more information on what it is, but the corpse has human organs that all seem normal despite the creature's outward appearance. That night, Clark puts the new husky into the kennels with the other dogs. Once the lights go out, the husky hisses and transforms, its head opening and tendrils emerging from its body. The other dogs yowl and try to escape. Clark hears the commotion and wanders in. A few dogs escape and knock him over, but he sees the tendrils coming and he closes the kennel just in time.
I don't know what the hell's in there, but it's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
The rest of the crew arrive and see what has become of the pups. MacReady and Gary fire at the creature, but it seems to have no effect. It lifts on its hindquarters and breaks a hole into the roof, just as Childs arrives with the flamethrower and burns it to smithereens. The next morning, they autopsy the creature, and inside they find twisted, skeletal remains. They realize that the creature was trying to imitate the dogs, and determine that the creature can change its cellular structure and transform. Blair begins acting paranoid, realizing that the dog was wandering the base for most of the day alone. The crew then watches a tape of the Norwegian team excavating something from the ice, and Mac decides to go check the dig site. Once there, they find the crashed spaceship that we saw at the beginning of the film, and determine that the ice it's buried in is roughly 100,000 years old. They get back and tell the team what they found. The crew only have questions, but no one can give them answers. As they're talking, Knowles comes in, angry because someone has thrown their torn underwear away in the kitchen garbage can. This may be important later, but let's move on. A bit later, Blair runs a simulation, and it's determined that there's a 75% chance that one of the crew members was infected by the Thing. He also determines that if it were to reach another continent, it could transform the entire world within a few months. Bennings and Windows stash the corpses in the storeroom, but we see a tendril slowly creeping from beneath one of the covers. Fuchs then pulls MacReady aside to speak to him in private. Fuchs has found Blair's journal and begins to read.
MacReady, there is still cellular activity in these burned remains. They're not dead yet.
Windows walks back into the storeroom and sees the ripped and bloody clothes of Bennings before noticing his twitching body wrapped in tentacles. He runs out and grabs Mac and Fuchs, but by the time they get there, the creature has escaped out the window. They chase down the running Thing and see what has become of Bennings. They tip over a fuel barrel and light the creature on fire. In the commentary for the film, we learn that this death was not originally scripted. There are photos of Bennings being killed by a human, or a humanoid thing at the very least. He would have been stabbed in the neck, but due to budget constraints, these scenes were never shot, and instead they made do with what they had on hand. And I gotta say, the scene that they ended up with is chilling, so I think it turned out for the better. They decide to burn the rest of the remaining corpses, no longer willing to take the chance of something within them remaining alive. But they realize that Blair is not there with the rest of the crew, and as MacReady is getting ready to head inside, he sees someone dart from the helicopter. He checks the vehicle and sees that it's been sabotaged, but he runs when he hears a gunshot come from inside. Blair is there, smashing the radio equipment and threatening anyone who tries to interfere with his pistol. Once he's out of ammo, the crew rush in and decapacitate him. They take Blair to the tool shed, boarding up the windows and making it a makeshift cell. When Blair and MacReady are alone, the doctor admits that he doesn't know who to trust, and as Mac is leaving, he warns him.
I said watch Clark. And watch him close, do you hear me?
The team has all accepted that someone may not be who they appear to be, and they try to determine a test that they could do to prove their innocence. They come up with a blood serum test, but when they look for their blood, they find that it's all been destroyed. Gary is the only one with a key to the blood. He swears his innocence, but most of the crew don't believe him or are just unsure of what to believe in general. Gary offers up his pistol, stating that he understands that they want someone else in charge due to their inability to trust him, and MacReady takes the role of leader. Mac makes a tape that he plans to hide in case no one makes it out alive.
I think it rips through your clothes when it takes you over. Nobody trusts anybody now. We're all very tired.
Fuchs tries to come up with a plan, and as a precaution determines that everyone should prepare their own meals and eat out of cans to avoid contamination. The power suddenly goes out, and someone lurks outside of Fuchs's room. He heads outside and finds one of MacReady's jackets all torn up. The rest of the crew have lost track of Fuchs and split into teams of 3 to search for him. Outside, MacReady checks in on Blair.
I don't want to stay out here anymore. I want to come back inside.
On their way back, they find what remains of Fuchs. He's burned to a crisp, and they come up with the theory that he was being infected and burned himself alive with a flare to avoid that fate. This was another death that may not have been intended. In a few photos, we see Fuchs impaled with a shovel, as well as a Thing version of him impaled and burned. Likely due to budget constrictions, these scenes were unshot, leaving us with a mystery of what really happened to Fuchs. MacReady sends Windows inside to tell the others that they found Fuchs, but he and Knowles go to check on his personal cabin because the lights are now on, meaning that someone was in there previously or could still be in there now. After 45 minutes without the duo returning, the rest of the team begin to board up the doors and windows of the main facility. Norris spots someone hobbling through the snow, and a very chilly Knowles enters. He states that he ditched MacReady after finding some of Mac's clothes all ripped up, so now they believe that Mac is infected. While they're talking, they hear a window break, and the only one that it could be is MacReady. They break down the storeroom door and see Mac inside. He lights up a flare over a bundle of dynamite, threatening the rest of the crew to put down their weapons and back away. When Norris tries to attack him, the man collapses, and the doctor determines that it's from a heart attack. When Copper tries to resuscitate the man with defibrillators, his chest opens with jagged teeth and bites off the doctor's arms. Norris then transforms, his body elongating and sprouting with tentacles. Mac lights him up, but Norris's head falls from his body and begins to crawl away. It then adapts, sprouting spindly legs and eyes. It peeks from beneath a desk and tries to escape.
You gotta be f***ing kidding.
Mac ignites the head, putting an end to the Norris thing. Mac then wants to tie everyone up. He turns his back on Clark, and the dog handler rushes at him, but Mac reacts quick and shoots him in the head. Mac then reveals his plan. He wants to draw some blood from everyone. He believes that every part of the Thing is alive, so if they get some blood and use a hot wire against it, then it will hopefully react and give everyone an idea of who is infected and who is not. With the test, Windows is cleared, and Mac gives the man the other flamethrower. MacReady then uses his own blood and proves his innocence. Dr. Copper and Clark are also cleared.
And Clark was human, huh? Which makes you a murderer, don't it?
When Palmer's blood is tested, it jumps and screeches. Palmer then begins to shake and transform. Mac is unable to light his torch, and Windows is grabbed by the Palmer thing, its head opening and clamping Windows' head in its jaws before he's tossed aside. Mac is finally able to light up his flamethrower and ignites the thing. It breaks through a wall and falls. Then, Mac throws a stick of dynamite at it, blowing the thing to Kingdom Come. Windows has already started to transform, forcing Mac to burn his body as well. They finish off the blood tests and find that Knowles, Childs, and Gary are all human.
I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this couch!
Mac, Knowles, and Gary head out to give Blair the test, but when they arrive, they see the door has been opened and the doctor is nowhere to be found. Inside, they find that the floorboards are loose and a tunnel has been dug beneath the toolshed, and in the cavern are the workings of a new spaceship. While strapping dynamite to the ship, they see Childs exit the facility just as the power goes out. The temperature is dropping rapidly and will be negative 100 degrees in the next few hours.
It wants to freeze now. It's got no way out of here. It just wants to go to sleep in the cold until the rescue team finds it.
The remaining team then realize that none of them will be getting out alive, but before they freeze, they have to be sure that the thing can never be found or rescued. They run through the station, blowing up each room with dynamite before heading down into the generator room. They begin to plant charges throughout the basement, planning to bring the entire facility down. Gary's light goes out, and once he rounds a corner, Blair shows up and grabs the man's mouth. His fingers meld into Gary's flesh, silencing his scream and ending his life. Knowles thinks that he sees something and wanders down the corridor. Mac calls to the others, but receives no answer and realizes that something is wrong. He readies the detonator and lights up a stick of dynamite. Suddenly the ground bursts and large tentacles erupt, grabbing the plunger.
Yoink.
The thing then emerges, half of its face resembling Blair and the body of a dog growing from its midsection. MacReady throws his dynamite at the creature and sets off a chain reaction of explosions. Mac then stumbles through the rubble, a bottle of liquor in his hand. He sits but turns when he hears someone approach. Childs appears asking if he's killed the Thing. It's clear that the two do not trust each other, but neither of them are in any shape to do anything to the other.
Why don't we just wait here for a little while? See what happens.
Mac offers Childs a drink before he chuckles. We then see the burning base, and that's where the movie ends. While it is purposefully ambiguous, I've heard two really fun theories about this ending. One is the reason why Mac chuckles at the end. This theory doesn't have a lot of weight to it, and just puts the idea that maybe he had fuel in the bottle and was planning to kill himself by drinking it. Once he offered it to Childs, and the man didn't seem to mind, he realizes that he is actually a thing and not his friend. But the other theory is my favorite. Notice how this scene is shot. It seems purposeful that as Mac talks, his breath comes out in large plumes, but if you look closely, you'll see that almost nothing happens when Childs talks. It's subtle but seems deliberate, and makes me believe that it's a clue to the truth of who is human and who is a thing. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I remember the first time I watched it just being mesmerized by the perspective of how quickly trust between friends can end, and seeing the paranoia slowly take over each character in the station. It's a movie that makes you take guesses and doubt your own initial instincts, only giving reprieve to the building paranoia in few and far between scenes. It has some of the best practical effect work of any movie I've seen, and still blows me away to this day, and I understand why so many people call it their favorite horror movie ever. If you enjoyed this breakdown and you want to see more like it, then don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can catch me on the next video. If you'd like to see the movies I've already covered, then check out the All Titles playlist, and if you have a movie that you'd like to see me review, then don't forget to put that down below in the comments. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
No.